So hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of lesson 7 here at P101 online course. So this is a continuation of our part 1, and as I told you before, in the second part we're going to study some examples of the Brazilian Portuguese pronomes oblíquos, and we are going to focus on the two types of these pronouns, which are the átonos and the tônicos. Alright, so the átonos and the tônicos, the main difference you should keep here is the preposition that the tônicos need. Alright, so the tônicos are used when we have a stated preposition and a phrase. On the other hand, the átonos are used with our verbal complements, so the objetos, alright, and we have the direct objects and the indirect objects. So the indirect objects actually are those that complete this the meaning of a indirect verb, and the indirect verb is that verb that needs a obligatory preposition. Alright, and we can have direct verbs, indirect verbs, and direct and indirect verbs that need the specific verbal complements, the objects. So we would call those verbs transitivos direto, so the direct verbs, and verbos transitivos indiretos for the indirect verbs. Alright, but we don't need to talk that much about those verbs, but let's go on with our exercises. Alright, so let's start with the átonos. Alright, and in this class I want to explain all major cases to you, because then it will be easier to understand the whole pronoun structure in Brazilian Portuguese, and considering that the last part of lesson 7, the first part, was a little bit complicated, then we have this part 2 to explain those differences in a more complete way. So here we have the átonos, and then let's start with the first person singular. Then we should start here just talking about the direct and indirect verbs and objects. So here we have what we would call a verbo transitivo indireto, a indirect verb, because we need, in the case of the verb obey, which is obedecer, we need the preposition a. Alright, on the other hand, with this verb respeitar, to respect, we have a verbo transitivo direto that does not need a preposition. so this is a direct object. And then, considering our pronouns me, te, nos, and vos, in both cases for direct and indirect objects and verbs, we will keep them in the same form. Alright? So, eles sempre me obedeceram. They have always obeyed me. And then, eles sempre me respeitaram. They have always respected me. Alright? So the indirect and direct objects in this case have the same form. Alright? Now let's go on here. Then the second person singular. Alright? So, eu o convidei para a festa. I invited you to the party. Eu te convidei para a festa. I invited you to the party. Here, the difference is that instead of using the second person tu, we then use você, which also means you, but follows a third person conjugation. So both phrases have the same meaning, but then in the first one we use the pronoun você, and then we need to use the pronoun ato no o. In the second case, we use the pronoun tu, and then we need to use the ato no pronoun te. Alright? And both will have the same translation. We're just considering which pronoun we are using. In the spoken language, we prefer to use the pronoun of treatment você. Tu is only used in some regions of the country and usually portrays a more formal situation. Alright? So let's go on here with our third person singular. Alright? So, sorry, this is not yet our third person singular. That's just a second note to our second person singular. So in this first case, what happens is that the verb is a direct verb. In this case, if we want to use the pronoun você, we use o. On the other hand, here we have a direct and indirect verb. The direct object is as chaves, which are the keys, but then we have the indirect object. So translation would be here. Eu lhe dei as chaves. Eu te dei as chaves. I gave the keys to you. Since we need a prepositional object and indirect object, in this case we need to use the pronoun lhe and not the pronoun o. On the other hand, the pronoun te, when we have both indirect and direct verbs, stays the same. Alright? Here, let's keep with our autonomous pronouns. And then we have the third person here, singular and plural. So, I invited him, her, or them to the party. We have two forms. We can either put the pronoun atono before or after the verb. In the first case, we have all of them before. On the second case, we have all of them after, and then we need to use here dash. Alright, so I invited him, her, or them to the party. And here the same translation, because of the verb ending, we do not use the we do not need to use the personal pronoun eu. Alright, so let's move on to some specific changes that happen when we use the pronouns after the verb. In this case, when we have a verb ending with a nasal sound, so this would usually be the sound of the letter M or the letter N, as we have in here. When we use the pronoun after the verb, we need to make a change, and that include the letter N before the pronouns. So, colocaram o livro sobre a mesa. They put the book on the table, over the table. Then, the same thing here for the masculine singular atono pronoun. We cannot use the pronoun as we use it in this case. We cannot use colocaram o. We need to say colocaram no, because we have a nasal and. That would be the same for colocaram na, colocaram nos, and colocaram nas. Alright? Here for third person singular. And then in a second special case, when we have verbs ending in the letters R, S, or Z, then we change the pronouns after the verb and we put the letter L instead of the letter N, as we have with nasal sounds. So here we have the verb, and then I will analyze the case now. I will analyze it now. So since we have the R here, we change the verb, we put here without the R, and then we include the L here. So it could be vou analisá-lo, vou analisá-la, vou analisá-los, vou analisá-las. Alright? So those two special cases for third person. Here with our first person and second person. Alright? Just to complete our study of the atonos pronouns. Here we have in both direct and indirect objects the same form. On the other hand, when we have, for example, the third person pronoun, then if we have the direct object, then we need to use o. If we have the indirect object, we need to use le. And since the pronoun of treatment você follows the same third person conjugation, then we also use o for direct and le for indirect. Now let's go to our tônicos pronouns. Alright? So here we have first person singular, then não vá sem mim, don't go without me, then they will travel with me, and then as we stated in the first part, we do not use this form, so it would be comigo. Then second person singular, I brought the book to you. Then we can have either ti or você as we have the second or third person, alright, as você has the second person with whom you're talking sense, alright? So I brought the book to you, then I wanna go to the cinema with you. So the same thing, we cannot use conti and then we say contigo. Quero ir para o cinema contigo. Alright? If we want to use você, then we just stay with you, com você. Alright? Then, third person. Ela trouxe a responsabilidade para si. She kept the responsibility with her or to her. And then, of course, we have the preposition in all those cases. That's why we have the tônico pronoun. Then, ele carregava o documento consigo. He brought the document with him. Alright? Then, first person plural. Then, disseram a nós a verdade. They told us the truth. We have again the preposition. If we had, we could have instead nos disseram a verdade. Alright, with our átono pronoun. And then the president comes with us. O presidente vem conosco. Then, second person plural. I brought the book to you. Again, here, vós or vocês. Trouxe o livro para vós. Ou trouxe o livro para vocês. Then, estarei convosco no Natal. I'll be with you Christmas. And then, eu comprei carro para eles. I bought a car for them. Then the preposition again. They carried a document with them. Again, we have here. Alright? So, all our first, second, and third person singular tônicos pronouns, we all have the preposition stated before them, and then first, second, and third person plural, again with the preposition stated before them. And just to complete this part, we have just a special note, again, for our tônicos pronouns. In this case, we have eu acredito em você, or eu acredito em ti, and then, but when we have this preposition em, I believe in you, I believe on him, or her, or them, then we cannot use em, mas, ele, ela, eles, or elas, but instead we need to use nele, nela, neles, or nelas. Alright? So we do not state with this third person tônicos pronouns the em preposition. Alright? So this is the end of lesson 7 part 2. Sorry for our little problems throughout our lesson, Thank you very much for keeping with P101 online course. My name is Mario, and please subscribe and follow our videos. You could also send an email to us if you want to submit your interest in our personal video lessons or live group tutorials. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.